Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. A once celebrated giant, a leading economy in Africa and the sixth largest exporter of crude oil, is currently facing numerous challenges across various sectors: economy, polity, security, and governance. It is now regarded as the world poverty capital, the third most terrorized country in the world, struggling to fix its nosedive economy, growing debt profile, dwindling currency, and escalating insecurity, among several others. But there is hope in the horizon as its citizens go to the polls in February next year. What should be on the table as various political parties and their candidates engage the citizens? How can this giant of Africa wake up from its slumber to provide the needed leadership on the African continent? What are the parameters? These and many more questions are begging for answers. And joining us in the studio to discuss these issues and propose solutions are two presidential hopefuls: Engineer Ayabagi Yusuf Sani of the ADP and Adewale Adebayo of the SDP. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
But before we commence the discussions, let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. It's Daily Politics, and today our talking point is issues in Nigeria's polity. And just like I said, we have in the studio two gentlemen, prominent personalities, talking about Engineer Ayabagi Yusuf Sani and Adewale Adebayo of the SDP. Together, we'll be looking at the issues very closely. Let me start with Engineer Ayabagi. Let's start with the polity. There's some level of hope, as we head towards 2023 election, especially with regards to our electoral process. Nigerians are beginning to see that the vote will count, so to speak, judging by the two up-season elections we had in Ikiti and, of course, Osun recently. Courtesy, perhaps, of the transformation going on in the electoral process, as pushed by INEC, talking about the technological, inclusion, the IREP, perhaps, the result viewing portal, and of course the voter accreditation system, that is the VIVAS. Nigerians are beginning to have interest in the polity. We are seeing the level of engagement. People are coming out now to vote, especially if we look at Osun election, where there was unprecedented turnout of voters. There's some level of hope. How are you, looking at this change in our political trajectory?
Well, thank you very much. I think we must give kudos to the National Independent Electoral Commission and Professor Mahmoud Yakubu for the innovations that they have brought into the process of conducting elections in this country. Of course, if you look at the gamut of what they have brought to bear in conducting the two off-season elections, like you said, and also in preparing for the big one, which is 2023 elections, definitely one will have cause for some confidence in the ability of the umpire now to deliver on the mandate given to them, which is to ensure that we have free, fair, credible, and all-inclusive elections. Well, but again, it does not stop with INEC alone. If you look at the whole the stakeholders,
That's right.
you know, in the process. You find the security agents, the
Political actors like you.
exactly, ourselves, and the electorates also is a key stakeholder in the whole thing.
Yes.
So one menace that has reared its ugly head is the issue of vote buying and selling. You know, so again, when you look at it against the background of what Nigerians are facing in terms of what this government has done to us by throwing the whole system into, I mean, the people into a kind of situation that breeds nothing but abject poverty. It begs the issue that
But is it a government creation? Because
yes, the government
poverty
creation
has been there.
the
Some will say maybe it's on the rise. Even the government would disagree that the figures are going down instead of going up.
We are paying for somebody's incompetence. You know, we must take it like that's what it is. It's nothing but that, because this country, like you know, we are blessed. You know, fabulously blessed. If you look at the natural resources, the human capital, and the size of the country itself. And the population. These are supposed to be assets that other countries have used to their advantage. China here, that is described today as the second largest economy, power, I mean, was not anything better than what we are. But they got it right. Why? Because they were able to stumble onto a credible leadership that has passion, that is committed, that is engaged, that wants to leave a legacy. So that's why China is able to achieve what they achieve. They are able to achieve. So coming to the election, 2023, Polity, my fear is the utterances. I mean, what I'm hearing from Mr. President when the Vice President went to visit him, he's going to hand over to them. So I don't know whether there's going to be any election again. And then why am I expressing? Well, no, why I'm expressing the fears is that, you see, the security agencies, they have not done much in terms of living up to expectations. They said they arrested people in Ekiti State and also in Osun State. We have not seen any prosecution.
Action taken.
Okay.
Looking at, legacy, he talked about, leaders who have, the competence and the capacity to leave legacies for their country. President Muhammadu Buhari has said it, time without numbers, that what he would like to leave as a legacy for Nigeria is such credible election, free and fair election. And we're beginning to see, if his recent posture concerning that is anything to go by. A president who is perhaps ready to keep to his words, allowing the system to run, without interference. We've seen what happened in Ekiti and what happened in Osun. And the role played by especially security agencies and so on. Is it to say that there's nothing to celebrate about this government, if at all we can have a credible process that will usher in a new set of leadership?
Well, I cannot say that there is nothing to celebrate about this government. I'm prepared to celebrate their departure. I think that's one thing that I'm prepared to celebrate.
That's a serious one.
Yes, so I'm preparing myself to celebrate their departure, and it will be even double celebration for me if I win the election and they hand over to me. But until then, there's a lot to endure. Until then, there's a lot to endure. Beyond the satisfaction, psychological satisfaction, that we don't have a military coup, that we are not under foreign occupation, even though we're partially under terrorist occupation, and that Nigerian people have not given up on the country. So when I go out and I see the number of people who are receiving me, I get humbled by the fact that the ordinary people who are having a worse time than I'm having are still eager about the politics. When I see the number of people who come to visit me, and how many hours they wait because other people are there, it gives me hope that the people of this country, despite all the problems, have not given up on the country. So we have problems, but if the idea is to celebrate an administration that itself is, I think, you could see from the face of the president that if there's a way he could wind the clock forward, he would want us to jump from now straight to May 29.
Perhaps because of the enormity of the challenge, of leadership, which is now glaring. But then talking about, governance, some would say it is not just a one-man business. Substantially over the years, some would say the Nigeria's elite, which you belong to perhaps, yes, were actually behind the state of the country where we are today. There was some sort of state capture by the elites.
I've said that many times.
So one will begin, Nigerians are beginning to think, to wonder if there is anything that some of you, who are aspiring will bring to the table beyond the same rhetorics that we are seeing.
Okay, what is to be clear is this. Every Nigerian knows the truth, but very few are willing to pay the price of saying the truth. Every Nigerian knows that the present administration is a fiasco in capital letter. Whether you want to say it or not, it's a fiasco, I can tell you.
I don't understand what you mean by a fiasco.
First, there are two standards you set, if you want to be fair. You set the standard of an ideal government as stated in our Constitution. Especially, I tend to focus on Chapter 2 of the Constitution. If you compare that with the government, it's a total failure. Then, if you go and be a little more sympathetic and compare the government, what they said it would be, and what they are now, because a country's constitution or the ethos and ideals may set a standard too high. As a person stumbles into power, it may be popular, but it doesn't meet the standard. So you can say, well, we have to take what we get. However, when a group of people led by the current president are coming to power and they use their own volition to set certain objectives and standards for themselves, and they're violating it every day. So in that case, there isn't much you can do than to say, even by your own promises and standards, you fail yourself. Now, that's for the government. Now for the elite, there are 4 branches of the elite. You have the intellectual elite, which is kind of dishonest intellectual elite, because they speak and explain on behalf of those who pay them. And that intellectual elite includes the lawyers like me, includes the media, that they tend to focus on personality, focus on religion, focus on other distractions. They can get a non-performing governor who pays for airtime to have live coverage and is talking lies and nonsense, and there is nobody to editorialize that because you make money out of it. There are people who are campaigning on issues. You don't give them airtime. You give airtime to those who are dancing and doing whatever they like. So we are guilty of that. Then when you go to the judiciary, they tend to overlook errors. And when judiciary overlooks errors, people commit more of them. So when you now go into the university now that they are suffering, I sympathize with ASU, but you will see that for many years, a large number of them were collaborators with the system. So if we're now looking at it,
so who is free now? What you're saying, everyone is culpable.
In the elite, the people who are free are the common people. And unfortunately for the common people, if they are not careful, they too will start to become collaborators because circumstances or condition or something is pushing them now into collecting crumbs from those who are winding down the system.
Right.
So we need to watch out for that. But it doesn't mean that there are no good people in the country. But if you want to do analysis, a government doesn't elect itself. It takes a collective to elect a government.
Right. At a period like this, Engineer Yabagi, we see people come with brilliant ideas, talking about statistics and, of course, ideas of how to run government and what have you. This is the same scenario that plays out before the 2015 election, for instance. And today, we're seeing the realities on the ground. Beyond the rhetorics, what people say, over the years, since independence, we're still grappling with the same issues. Bad roads, lack of, functional education, decayed healthcare, and what have you. Where are we getting it wrong? Is it about the character of people that we are bringing on board, or is it about this system itself, that fails, to provide the enabling environment for this growth and development to take place?
Well, I think if I go by what His Excellency has said, you find that truly and sincerely there's something wrong with Nigeria. And you can also extend it by saying that there's nothing wrong with Nigerians also. The only thing that is wrong, and that is what has been standing between us and greatness, is leadership. And like he says, government does not elect itself. People elect the government. So, which means, to a very large extent...
Does it always elect the government? There is also a concern that at some point the votes do not count.
Exactly. I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that, you see. So, to a very large extent, when you asked me the first question about the electoral empire, that we're getting something that people can now, rely upon and have confidence, I was going to tell you that it doesn't stop with Mahmoud Waziri alone. Mahmoud Yakubu, alone, and his people, his team. The employer, INEC staff are still today under the, if you like, whims and caprices of their employers. Because if they don't do what they want to a very large extent, they know, what can happen.
But help their independent budget, which is approved by the National Assembly.
Independent, it doesn't stop at the independent budget.
They have to dance to someone's tune for them to...
Well, not openly, but I know that to a very large extent, they have to be careful how their employer, looks at them or feels about them, because it's natural. He who pays the piper dictates the tune. Until we change that,
are you doubting the independence of the?
I'm just telling you the old saying that says that he who pays the piper dictates the tune. It works. And when you are, unfortunately, you have desperados like you have APC-led government who are desperate.
Is it only about the APC? Political parties are all desperate to grab power.
What is happening today, isn't it? And even Georgia, like I said before, the pronouncement of Mr. President that he's going to hand over to this team,
But what do you expect from a president who belongs to a political party?
Yes.
And he is receiving his presidential candidate.
Yes.
And he's expressing hope that he would perhaps
he didn't say, I hope.
hand over the baton.
He didn't say, I hope. If he had said, I hope, I will hand over to you, nobody would be scared. But he said, I will hand over to you, to your team.
Isn't that a level of optimism now? That
No. As a president, he must not forget the fact that he's also a president for other political parties and other people who have people like myself, himself, who have come out to contest. He's our president, and we expect that we'll hand over to us too. When we win, yes. So, but if it's with such a finality that I will hand over to you, we get scared. So, coming to the issue of you asked about.
I'm actually talking about the issue he raised.
Yes.
Are we different from what we've been hearing over the years? The same rhetoric coming from politicians.
Exactly.
And
I say that it's about leadership. So what we are saying in essence is that we can't be doing the same thing, same way, and expect different results. What am I saying? Nigerians should now wise up. They should understand that time has come for them to do what other countries have done. That is, elect different people that have track record, that will not disappoint you, that you believe can give you, what you really require as a citizen of a country so blessed like Nigeria. And what is it about? It's about having... Now Nigeria cannot say that we don't have, they have choices now. About 18 political parties are fielding candidates. End of the day, you'll find, I'm sure, even if there are some alliances, coalition and things like that, you will have more than 2 presidential candidates, end of the day, that will be campaigning, will be contesting, asking for votes.
Are you ready as political parties to throw up, a third force? Because that has also been elusive. You've been talking at different points, and then yet you're going your separate ways.
No.
Some will say even among the political parties there is no direction or consensus around building a strong platform that will face the dominant parties.
There is a process. It's not something that happens. It's not so mechanistic like that. It's not mechanical rather. It's something that takes a process. And that the process is on. Definitely, the process is on. All of us were not oblivion of the fact that all of us cannot just become the president. And if we really want to chase out this monster that we have created for ourselves.
Is it a monster?
It's a monster.
I hope we'll be...
It's a monster.
We'll try and
it's a monster. What we have had between the PDP and APC, believe you me, it's a monster that unfortunately was created by Nigerians who are looking for something that will solve, their problems, the economic, social, and political problems, especially after the horrible experience with PDP, was stealing like there's no tomorrow. So then here we end up with, like from frying pan to fire. These ones have no even direction, no organization, no credibility, no plan. You just wake up from one problem to the other, and they have not been able to fix one. Not economic problems, not security problems, not even the issue of corruption, which, like my colleague here was alluding to, that even the mantra, the program they gave to themselves, they failed.
Yeah. But shouldn't we also look at the fact that expectations are different from realities? For instance, let me get your perspective on this. Yes, the government came on board with a lot of promises and expectations from Nigerians, but it's a government also that has faced several challenges, we have to admit. That any government will find itself in such a direction or in such a situation may find it extremely difficult to deliver. Talking about the dwindling revenue generation, so to speak. We've had issues around first, when they came on board, the reduction in oil revenue, which was obvious. At some point, we're getting like $80, $100 a barrel, and they came to meet like $25, $30, $35 a barrel. Substantially, the revenue has dropped. Again, the country went into recession, the first and the second, which was COVID-induced and what have you. And we have growing demands as a country. We are also grappling with a growing number in our population. Today we're talking about 217 million people. And all of this perhaps will present a challenge to whatever government that finds itself in this direction. Shouldn't we also at some point appreciate what the government was able to do, sustaining the economy thus far?
You see, if they are worried about all these routine things, then they should hand over the government to me. Why are we talking like this?
How can they just...
please, they can't, because if you are...
We're talking about a democratic,
yes, democratically,
that has been elected by the people. Why should
democratically, they can resign. It's in the Constitution. Now we'll do early elections, and we'll start attending to this, because if you are telling me that everything that is there to work for you, you don't know how to make them work, then why are you there? For example...
Well, are they saying that they're not making it work? We're talking about how they are able to manage this challenge.
One thing we need to introduce to our politics is honesty, especially honesty of analysis. You can have any viewpoint, but you cannot argue against the fact that they have ruined the economy, people are out of job, people are insecure, and all of that. I know all of these things when I decided that I wanted to run for president. So these things are not intimidating to me. These are things which I looked at to the solution.
But the same
the government
thing,
this
people
government
in
is like a
government
driver.
have been saying before is what you're saying today. Perhaps because you are outside.
You're
not on the driving seat.
No, because I'm outside. We are different. You see, it is for the media and for the people to listen. I don't want to spend most of my time analyzing the 2015 fiasco that we went into open-eyed. And the same way I'm saying now, and that's why I'm saying to people, if you want to make a change, you can decide to say that, well, whatever the problems you are facing in this country now, alhamdulillah that you are still alive today, and you don't worry, and you want to go with the same establishment. Hopefully, such people will be in minority. Majority will be people who actually want to live a good life, who believe that God could not have created Nigerians to be in perpetual darkness, perpetual suffering, and the national grid will be collapsing every 2 weeks, and all this issue of unemployment cannot be attended to. So they want a change.
Are they not being attended to?
Let me explain to you why you have this. If they are being attended to, the thing they are attending to is not responding to them. What I need to let you know is that why it looks like all the time politicians come and say this and nothing changes, it's because it's the same people. It's the same people. There is no new person. And that's why I'm telling Nigerians, if you want to taste something new, elect new people. You will see that 2015, it was new PDP that started their trouble. It is the new PDP that joined and went and assumed where he was. and joined with ACN to become, so they're not completely new. Now, so PDP became APC, and you could see today that the chairman of APC, when in 2015, it was in PDP. And the same thing, the same thing I'm saying now, that even the PDP has opened a new shop in Labour Party. So we are watching.
That's your perspective.
That's why you invited me to give my perspective. Excuse me, you invited me to give my perspective. I'm giving you fact. I'm not here to comfort you. I'm giving you fact so that you can think. And your audience can think and say, well, am I right?
Because the party has never told Nigerians that it's opening a new shop.
They don't need to tell you. For example, what I'm saying is in politics, politicians have ideology. And that ideology informs their performance in government. And when
we really have ideologies. Because what we are saying today, just like you're telling
politicians have ideology.
They may not express desperate set of human beings who are
they have a
ready
pattern.
to grab power at all costs.
That's ideology. Power at all costs is their ideology. Money at all costs is their ideology. And these people change party from place to place. So the fact that they change party doesn't mean you have a real change. What I'm telling people is this, because I may win the election, I may not win. It's based on God and the people. But what you say is on record. And when I was talking in 2015, I was saying, like, why are you predicting doom? I said, these people are not going to make a change. Look at the man on the right, look at the man on the left. They are the people who cause the problem the man in the middle says is going to solve. So they won't solve it. In 2019, I said, number one and number two, no option. You have to go for a third force. And His Excellency here would testify to you, even though we're a different party, the effort I have made to try to get the real third force together.
Mr.
And I'm saying to you, this is the way forward. If you don't follow it, you'll come back in 2020.
Mr. Adebayo, beyond political parties and the jumping, the cross-carpeting and what have you, the lack of ideology. We are here to speak to the issues. You talked about, electricity, for instance, which is very fundamental to the growth of any economy. You were concerned about the frequent collapse of the grid. If, for instance, you are in a position to address this problem, is a fundamental national problem that has been there over time, since independence. Why are we not getting it right? Because
in November 2001, I attended the National Council on Power when Agagu was Minister of Power under President Obasanjo, and Daguma Goje is alive today, was Minister of State. And Dr. Ekerendu, who still remains my friend, was Permanent Secretary. And at that time, Makoju, of blessed memory, was the MD of NEPA. And I gave them a blueprint on, one, why they would never get power. Number two, how to get power for this country. And I've applied it to myself. All my establishments are off-grid. And I told them that...
But Nigerians also need to know this.
Yes, well, I'm just letting you know that because you didn't change these people, you have these same people who have a penchant for procurement, a penchant for investing billions of dollars on a dead horse. They know a dead horse will never wake up. But at least they are going to make money from trying to get doctors to wake up the dead horse. And they award a lot of dead horse contracts. The electricity obeys everybody. Look at the woman in Wuse Market or any other Kazuwa anywhere in Nigeria. If they go and buy a generator and put fuel in it, connect it, in 2 days they will have electricity, which means that electricity obeys Nigerians. Why is it that the government, when we built Egbe Station, it was built by Marubeni, and when I came to them in 2001, I told them, Marubeni has stopped servicing this kind of station. Because I was a lawyer in the power sector. In many countries, I've done it. So I saw that these people were more eager to award contracts than to get it into work. What I'm letting you know is that whether it's housing, whether it's education, for example, do you know that the money for ASU is lying there in TED fund? But people are sitting on top of the money.
Why are you not unlocking it?
Well, no, you see, because when people come to government, they have an ideology that brings them to government, whether they put in writing or not. And the other ideology of the people who have come to government in 1991, without exception, is capture power.
In 1999.
1999. Capture power, capture institutions, capture national assets, commercialize and privatize them to yourself. Capture procurement. Every appointment that they do, so they are focused on that. And there's nothing you can do. And you consider them they are heavy spenders. Everything they do, they spend billions. elections, they spend billions. Unveiling, they spend billions. So they have married themselves into it. They're like parasites that have entered into the bloodstream of the economy. So talking to them, giving them advice, you're wasting your time because they are committed to the notion that they want to take the last blood of the economy. Now, what you can do to save yourself and to save the masses and to save the future is to take away power from them. Because once they're out of power, then they cannot touch your money. Do you know that the revenue you say we are short of revenue is because this government that is in power today, that's a few miles from us, are colluding with thieves to steal 80% of the crude. Though you are in the media, you shouldn't close this night without investigating why 80% of our crude oil is being stolen.
We'll talk about
and the government is rubbing hands as if they don't know. They know.
We'll talk about the oil
sector. So how will your economy not collapse?
When we return. Okay, very disturbing scenario you painted. But it's about time we take a break. I understand. When we return, we'll be looking at, perhaps how best we can change this narrative, or, better still, galvanize the needed strategy to rescue the country from, this trend that we're talking about, the negative narrative we're talking about. In case you're just joining us, the program is Daily Politics, and today we're looking at issues in Nigeria's polity. And I have two prominent personalities, presidential hopefuls, 2023, talking about Engineer Yabagi Yusuf Sani of the Action Democratic Party, the ADP, and Adewale Adebayo, who is also the presidential candidate of the SDP. We'll take a break. When we return, the discussion continues.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Thank you very much for staying with us on Daily Politics. And today we're looking at issues in Nigeria's polity with Engineer Yabagi Yusuf Sani and Adewale Adebayo of the SDP. Just before the break, Engineer, Mr. Adebayo is giving us, looking at a very gloomy picture of what is going on in terms of governance, in terms of the characters of people in government, and in terms of their thinking and direction. Dwells so much on the issue of energy, for instance, electricity. Just recently, the government also unveiled a new NNPC, that is a new national oil company. The idea perhaps is to develop a company or a corporation that is efficient and is also productive. He earlier talked about, pumping in money, or rather where it would not work, a dead horse now, trying to revive a dead horse. And we have a number of refineries, in Nigeria who are meant to produce what we should consume, what we should use to power the energy, to power the economy. And then yet, these refineries are moribund, and monies are being pumped in year in and year out. Talk about subsidy, for instance, which has been a very serious challenge to the government in terms of revenue. What is eating deep into their revenue? The government is projecting around 6-point-something trillion naira next year for subsidy. Why are we, as a people, as a government, why should we continue to pump in money where it will not add value?
Well, unfortunately for us in this country, like we have all said, we have a situation which you can aptly describe as a state capture with impunity, actually, because if you remember, the situation with us is such that corruption does not really mean anything. It's like government has accepted it as the way of doing business. And
but it's one of the issues it is out to fight, Corruption is one of the cardinal objectives, fighting corruption.
I understand, but this is government that has done very little, in fighting corruption. Very, very little, because look at the case of Magu. The National Assembly, until the man left the seat, was telling Mr. President that this man is not supposed to be in this seat. And they were proved right, because this man was found wanting. But look at what happened. The same person, after he was booted out, just a month or so ago, I hear that the man has been, promoted to AIG. So what are you telling Nigerians? What are you telling the people, the rank and file, people that he left in the system, that nothing will happen to you? Look at the case of Accountant General Federation that stole about 190 billion naira of our money. All that happened was that the man was taken away for how many days, I don't know, and he was asked to go, that he was granted bail. In a sane country, this cannot happen. And it's happening because the same president, President Buhari, who is pretending over the oil and gas sector, and with all the corruption that is happening in that sector, and he could not ask EFCC to probe, to investigate, that sector, and look at another sector again. Talking about the security aspect, that is the armed forces, which is directly under Mr. President also. Corruption there is so pervasive also. And he could not ask the EFCC or another agency of government to deliberately probe those agencies so that Nigerians at least will believe that, yes, you have come to fight corruption, you are fighting corruption. Because this, the sector of the economy that are directly under the president are the most endemic in terms of corruption that is taking place. So the point I'm trying to make is that oil and gas sector has been run in a manner that you will think that we don't know what we are doing at all. And we do know what we are doing. Because take it from the PIA, which gave birth to the NNPCPL, which we'll talk about. The PIA is the greatest swindle of the century against the people of this country. Because the principle upon which PIA was introduced is to bring about accountability, transparency, good governance, isn't it? But what happened?
Are we not heading towards that direction now?
At all.
With the level of transformation going on. You talk about the PIA, yes, which essentially was to pave way for this,
the legal framework
to work. And then
the fiscal,
some would say, even including the government, and what we are beginning to see, the investors' confidence that is being built around it. Recently, I heard that some of the investors are coming back.
Where?
With the,
where? Or investors are leaving. When Shell, Model, all these are selling their investments in this country, the West,
because that was the primary, that was the reason behind why Nigeria has lost so much money, in the industry, because we're yet to have this framework.
The Minister of State himself, he confessed that about how many billions of dollars came to Africa, only less than 4%, came to Nigeria. Less than that.
But was it not as a result of absence of those frameworks?
But since the PIA was introduced, which investor has come to Nigeria that are investing in the oil and gas sector? Not to my knowledge. Maybe you are closer to them. Maybe you can tell me. So that's to tell you. And look at, shortly after that bill was introduced, it was passed into law, and agencies were created. That was the time we started having these queues, that we're having, because the agencies, regulatory agencies, to tell you that it was all a make-believe thing, that there's nothing of substance in what they did, allow foul fuel to come into this country. And has anybody to take him to court for doing that? Like he says, 80% of our revenue from oil is being stolen, officially confirmed. Has anybody to take him to court? Naiti, year in, year out, will tell you that we are losing close to $4 billion, even $5 billion.
To who now?
Every year.
To who are we losing?
To NNPC people, to oil and gas sector people, to the IOCs, some of them. So who has been taken before the court? There was a time when I hear that Attorney General of Federation was in court with the IOCs for several billions of dollars, in taxes which they didn't pay. Did you hear anything about it anymore? It's not that they are paid. So I'm telling you that this government I think it is the worst thing that can happen to this country in terms of really getting our economy to function. This God-given, resources in terms of oil and gas and other things that we have, been so mismanaged in a manner that you think Nigerians are fools. We are not fools. Proposals have been given to the government, to this government, on how to ensure that we account for what is coming from in terms of crude oil. Right. But what have they done? Nothing.
Right, Mr. Adebayo, how do we stop the hemorrhage? How do we stop this? It's quite monumental. It's quite, mind-boggling to hear that huge amount.
You asked me about NNPCL.
Whether there's going to be a change.
No, that's an entrenchment of the stealing that is going on, because nothing has changed. They told you that now NNPCL, it belongs to Nigerians. Which Nigerians? Federal Ministry of Finance Incorporated or Treasury, which is headed by appointed.
It's about to go public, for instance. Part of the reasons for the restructuring was to make it public, so that Nigerians would own the shares and then own the resources.
Wait and see what will happen.
Right. Okay.
The government that has how many months left to go that will do all this things. All these years didn't do anything.
Okay. Let's look at how we can address these problems. It is easy to narrate the problems, to talk about them. What can we do differently, for instance, Mr. Adebayo, stopping the hemorrhage, the corruption, especially in the oil and gas sector, which is costing Nigeria billions of dollars, for instance, in terms of crude oil theft, in terms of the lack of accountability and what have you, that engineer has told us. What can we do? How can it be addressed, for instance?
We have to go back to the original thing. Black and white, truth. You see, when I have public discourse and I realize that people are not interested in the truth at all, something that's so obvious, we are making ourselves a laughable community in front of people. These are thieves in government. With due respect, look, you cannot say...
We have to be moderate.
No, I don't want to, because they're not moderating the stealing. What I'm saying to you is this. If you say that a government official who has sworn to a public oath has stolen billions, there's nothing moderate anymore. If you say...
But these are allegations. They need to be proven.
Now, the government is not like an opposition person. This is the leader of the opposition in Nigeria. It's the chairman of IPAC. It has not made a single allegation. He only repeats the allegation the government makes. So you cannot say that when the government accuses itself that we are losing 80% of your revenue, we cannot help them deny it. They are the one accusing themselves. When the government says that its own accountant general, the chief steward of our money, is now in custody, having been caught with 190 billion on additional money, it is not for me to be moderate, because that is not moderate in the stealing. What I'm letting you know is this, that number one, if the media and the politician and the public commentators don't want us to say the truth, let us shut down. and put sellotape in our mouth. Because I cannot...
Yeah, we're trying to find solutions, not just lamenting and dwelling on
No, the first thing you do is to admit the truth. You cannot find solution to your problem when it is mosquitoes who are talking about how to eradicate malaria. And the mosquito knows that it's the cause of the malaria. So you have to say, you mosquito, you are the one biting people, so stop biting people, stop spreading malaria. The government that is telling you that they are looking for solutions are the problems. Let me tell you what they are going to do with NNPC. It is called NNPC Limited, but you are going to have unlimited corruption, unlimited stealing, unlimited lack of accountability, unlimited looting. Why? There's no public. The public cannot buy zero to eat. The public cannot pay rent. The public cannot pay their children's school fees. So which public is going to buy an oil company? It is the public that stole it.
But these are shares that can be owned by Nigerians.
Excuse me, with due respect. I know you are a well-to-do journalist, you can buy shares. But I can tell you, the people I know, people I'm contesting election to represent, can't buy food to eat. So they are not in position to buy shares. Now, look at it.
So who is it meant for?
It is it's meant for those who want to privatize to themselves. Let me tell you why. NNPC, as it was before, belonged to Nigerians. It was a corporation answerable to the National Assembly. So it couldn't belong to us more than that. It belongs to us the same way the villa belongs to us. So if you say you want to privatize the State House now, and we should buy shares in it, buy shares in what? We already own it. How can you sell my father's house to me and ask me to buy shares? So it's a fraud. And when you see a fraud, you start with F-R-A-U-D. It's a fraud. So if you don't want to come to politics, this is why my leader, Aminu Kano, talked, and the man died. I will never learn anything. So if we don't want to say the truth, and we allow people to get away with this, you cannot tell me to find solutions when the only solution is to remove bad government. Every of these 1 million problems.
Are we manufacturing different people? Because it is the same Nigerians that have to populate the government.
See,
how different would
what
they
you are
be
doing is what is called fallacy of moral equivalence. You are saying that honest people who have worked all their life in the private sector, who you can go through their record, they are equal to those who have been stealing from government for the past 40 years. You can't say so. That is fallacy of moral equivalence. We are different. But you cannot say that Yabaji is equal to Buhari. It's not. You cannot say I am equal to Atiku. I'm not. Or I'm equal to Obi. I'm not. So what I'm letting you know is that you must let us make that distinction. Otherwise, you are passing a wrong message that everybody in Nigeria is part of the system. We are not.
Okay. Let's look at one critical sector because time is fast spent. Yes. You talked about, currently we are having, a very serious challenge in our education sector, especially at the tertiary level. The universities have been shut down, as a result of this prolonged strike. He talked about the fact that the money meant for these universities is there, under lock and key in the TED fund, for instance. Yes, I think he's talking about TED fund. And I understand that even the basic education level or challenges that we're facing today is as a result of our non-utilization of the funds that are there. State governments cannot provide counterpart funding, to access the monies that are there in the universal basic education and so on, and then, address the problems at the grassroots. And yet, how do we move a country forward with this kind of, almost crippled education system, which is very critical for any development in a nation?
Yeah, well, that's what he said. He said we should chase them out, elect new leaders that really have the interest of the people at heart, and would demonstrate it. That it's a conventional theory that if you want to bring the country to its knees, attack its education system, attack its food production system. What is happening to this country today? The largest producer of food in this country is the North, in terms of what we produce. Farmers today cannot go to farm again. How? Why? Because of the bandits. Education system. Children, out of school. Not to talk about 10 million, over 10 it's million.
Growing now.
Even tertiary institutions, they are out of school. They are not going to school. So how more injurious can you be to your country, as a leader? If these two problems that do not bother you, and you have to wait until last week to now give ultimatum to your Minister of Education, Who should I? I mean, it's a laughable issue.
They are even denying now that they didn't give any ultimatum at all.
They didn't give any ultimatum. Can you see that? So the two key areas that, as a president, you must be worried about, that how is it that they must function at their utmost, highest level, is comatose, and who is taking the action? Insecurity. Farmers in Katsina cannot go to farm. Every day, almost every day, if you check, Katsina is being attacked. People are being kidnapped, being raped, being killed.
Farming communities are displaced.
I'm mentioning Katsina because that's where Buhari, Mr. President, is from. So if he cannot even take care of his own state, of course, as a president, he's responsible to everybody. But at least your people, how can you allow that to happen today, day in, every day? People are being killed. So what are we talking about? That's why he says, don't elect these people. Get new people to do what they're supposed to do for you.
And that is why
the promise of greatness.
That's right.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah, and that's why
all that is standing between us and that greatness is leadership.
That's right. Okay, and that's why we're here, perhaps, because
we're here.
The country belongs to all of us, and we also have a responsibility to salvage
solutions.
Okay.
We have the solutions, believe you me.
Right.
We know what to do.
Thank you very much. I understand time has been past spent, and we have to leave the stage. It's a continuous conversation, We've just started, We haven't even touched, the aspects of security and what have you. I hope we can continue with the conversation, some other time, if you permit us, to have you back in the studio. We really appreciate your perspectives.
Thank you.
Dewale Adebayo, presidential candidate of the SDP, and Engineer Ayabagi Yusuf-Sani, presidential candidate of the ADP. Thank you very much for your coming and for your perspectives. On behalf of our guests and technical crew, this is where we have to draw the curtain on this program. Do hope you join us tomorrow. We'll be back with another interesting topic and personalities. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day.